1.5 acre.
Can I address the planning commission for a moment?
Yeah.
That'd be fair. My name's Lynn Bernhardt, and I live over by the Mountain View Park. I'm a 3-year resident of Far West. I'm excited to hear that the planning commission is considering liberalizing the keeping of small animals, such as rabbits or chickens in this case. And I just wanted to address the planning commission really briefly because I have I've done some homework, because I ran into a situation where as I studied the code and the ordinances, I found that basically what we're dealing with here is a nuisance ordinance. If there's a nuisance and the county's involved in the smell, the odor, the biting animal, those type, fleas, if that's the issue, then the city will pursue civil or criminal action against that person. But I also found out through living here in Far West that there's also a neighborliness application of that ordinance. Meaning if your neighbor doesn't like you, then they can make complaint against that person who's living next to them. And these more restrictive rules or ordinances come into effect. And so I just did some homework, and I heard the Planning Commission talking a little bit about how do we address this. I found one city actually addressed this through square feet. They identified if you have this much square feet, then like I think the gentleman over here, I don't know your name, sir, but you were addressing the fact that if you have this much square footage, you can have this many small animals. If you have this much square footage, you have this much, you can have these numbers of small animals. And it seemed to be very reasonable because it allows for, and I believe the city ordinance also allowed for offsets. You couldn't put a coop right next to your neighbor's window. I mean, I couldn't build a coop right next to my neighbor's window 10 feet away. However, if I build a coop 90 feet away in the back of my yard, which is 0.7 acres, it would be reasonable that I could keep small animals in my yard for the very purpose. So I'm excited to hear that the Planning Commission is considering a more reasonable approach to this law. The mayor came and talked to me a little bit about my situation, and I asked him how old the law was, and he said it was about 30 years old. And I thought that it's interesting, and I'm glad we're having an opportunity to discuss it because property 30 years ago was $5,000 an acre. Or I can't remember, maybe some people remember 30 years ago, you could purchase property in Far West very cheaply. But now, a family like myself, I can't afford land in Far West. So I push limits to buy a home that's on 0.7 acres to try to have an opportunity to raise small animals for my family and enjoy some of those privileges. And so I'm excited to hear that perhaps we're going to see some positive changes as far as this goes. So I actually came for this purpose, and it's fortunate for me because I didn't know that you guys, the Planning Commission was actually going to discuss this ordinance tonight. So my wife, so prompting I guess that she had, said, why don't you go see the Planning Commission and talk to them? But that's all I wanted to say was I appreciate the Planning Commission. I think that I look forward to some reasonableness and an approach that's more liberal, allowing for small families or smaller property owners to. I do. I live over I'm the property east of the Far West Park, or the Mountain View Park. So I live over there on the property that are.
I don't think.
So thank you for letting me address it.
I first.
Well, I'm sure.
Something needs to be addressed.
Well, look.